There is that knock on the door. Yeah, I'm looking at that sleeve there. That's gotta be.
はい。
朝早くすみません。州警察のものですが。
いや、朝方まで酒を飲んで。
That doesn't
何か。
実は
sound the greatest,
アイ
but
スラー記念病院のハイネマン院長、オッペンハイム外科部長、そしてドクターボイヤー
Oppenheim.
お亡くなりになられました。
とにかく犯行現場は警察以外立ち入り禁止にしていただかないと。
先にドクエースで写真を見る。もう一件は脳卒中で倒れた患者です。
ああ、ドクター、捜査に協力。
Not right now, man.
今そんな場合じゃ。
院長たちに恨みを持つような人間に心当たりはありませんか。
恨みを。
思い描いていた医者
Yeah,
への
he's
道は
clocking
閉
it.
ざされたと
He's
思い
clocking
たまえ
it. It's gonna fall on you at some point.
何か知ってるんですか。
ドクターテンマ、大変です。あの子たちが、あの双子の兄弟が
No, they're gone.
どこにもいない。
Ah. Everything's just like a house of cards. Crumbling at the same time.
妹のベッドも
Johan, is it?
探しました。でもどこにも。
Hmm. Hmm.
お父様。
エヴァ。
今まで院長の娘としてぬくぬくと生きてきて、それが突然ただの人になっちまった。
Hmm.
ショックも大きいわな。
Harsh.
こんな時
Harsh.
なんて
Yeah.
こと。
いや、しっき。
Again, you kind of need people like him around.
ノルトライン・ベストファーレン州警察のバイスバッハ警部です。この度はとんだことで
Has someone on this?
紹介しましょう。こちら
ドイツ連邦捜査局のルンゲ警部です。
Lunge.
天才医師の
Striking fellow.
伺ってますよ。
そんな。まだまだ若輩者。
He's already got a. Huh.
子供たちの行方はまだわからないんですか。
それよりも院長以下3名の死因が判明しましたよ。彼らの体内から硝酸
I
系の
was
毒物が
poisoned.
検出されました。
硝酸系というと筋肉弛緩剤。
さすがお医者さんだけあってお詳しい。
Saska.
しかしそんなものをどうやって。
キャンディーですよ。それぞれの死体のそばに
Oh
同じ
my
キャンディー
god,
の
so
包
it
み紙が発見
was.
され、胃の中からも同じものが検出されました。ところでそのキャンディーを3人がどこで手に入れたのかお心当たりないですか。
知りませんよそんなことは。それより双子の捜索はどう
Yeah,
なっているのか。
he's thinking of another.
あの子たちが大きな鍵を握っているかもしれない。
お願いします。なんとか探し出してください。
最善を尽くしますよ。
Go on. Give us your take on Dr. Tenma.
事件前、院長からチーフの座を外され、その娘との婚約も解消された日本人しか。
These types of
し
men
かしあの男
are
は
good at their
事
job.
件当時酒場で飲んでいてアリバイが
Interesting fellow indeed,
あ
huh?
の一つよろしいですか。
Don't ask him.
その手の動きは一体
キーを叩いているんだよ。頭の中のディスクに全ての情報を入力している。
Okay.
情報取り出しのキーを押せば、そんなまだまだ若輩者です。ドクター天馬は私が天才呼ばわりしたのに対して照れて言葉に詰まった。
Okay, looks like I've got a fantastic character on.
この事件のほとぼりが冷めたら日本に帰ろうと思うんだ。研究心を持ってドイツまでやっ
Nice.
てきた。
Nice.
一連の騒動のおかげで人の命を救うという医者の本分に立ち返れた気がするし。
おい、寂しいこと言うなよ。
疲れたんだ。なんだかとっても。
Yeah, but prepare yourself. Prepare yourself.
私がいないと店が潰れちまいますから。
ただし無理はダメです。
この病院辞めるって噂
Right.
本当です
Right.
か。お願いだ、
Mhm.
辞めないでください。
You're needed
あなたみたい
here.
ないい医者いないよ。辞めるなんて言わないでください。お願いだ。
今公認人事の理事会が行われている。
Ooh, that's right. That's
今まで主
right.
要なポストは院長派閥で占められていたから。ドクターテンマ。理事長に何か言われても頑張ってください。私たち応援してますから。この病院を辞めないでください。
He does have a tether to this hospital.
ドクター・テンマ、君を
Oh.
外科部長に任命する。
See that from the outside looking in, that does kind of look suspicious, doesn't it? Lunge, was it? He's already thinking of this.
院長の命令に逆らってチーフの座から外されエヴァとの婚約も解消になり
Yet,
ただの医者として出世とは関係ない道を歩いていこうと決めた矢先になんて
yeah,
なんて人生だ
it's not a promotion he really desired at this point.
呼び出したりしてごめんなさい。
Mm.
外科部長に任命されたんですってね。
Look at this.
本当によ
Look how soft her features have become all of a sudden.
ありがと
She doesn't look demonic anymore.
健三、お父様のお葬式の時、
She actually looks quite
慰め
pretty.
ようとしてくれたでしょ。
Mm.
私たちいろいろあったけど。
Oh, is that right? Is that right? Don't do it. Tenma, my dude. Back up. There you go.
お願い。私が悪かったわ。
Damn straight.
やり直したいの。健三、健三。
Good. Good.
脊髄腫瘍で入院している患者なんですが、
9 years
急
later.
激に麻痺が進行してしまったようなんです。わけのわからん犯罪が増える一方だ。
Mm.
おっと、
Oh.
2遺体ともナイフで首を切り裂かれています。殺害現場は夫婦の自宅。何度に隠されていた遺体がこの洪水で流れ出したものと思われます。
Jeez.
中年夫婦殺人事件。ドイツ全州で
Ah.
過去2年で4件。
Look who it
全て同じ手
is.
口です。裕福な中年夫婦ばかり狙った物取りでしょう。
いや、物取りと判断するには早すぎるな。すべての被害者夫婦に子供がいない。
確かにこの夫婦にも子供はいません。
ただの物取りと判断してしまう。
Mm.
余計な共
Is
通
that
項だと
right?
思わないかね。
単独犯ではないと。
極めて厳重な鍵と警報装置をつけた家も2軒
You
ある。
need
し
another?
かし犯人はそれをいとも簡単に開け侵入している。そしてどの夫婦も特に抵抗した後もなく殺害され、周囲の住民は事件当時物音一つ聞いていない。
I like him
単
a
独
lot.
犯にしては手際良すぎると思わないか。
は
窃盗の容疑で2度の逮捕歴。そいつの役割は鍵を開けること、いわゆる錠前屋だ。過去の中年夫婦殺害事件の際、3件の現場近くで目撃されている。
あ。ではこの男が。
さあどうかな。
Love the voice acting.
おいおい、理事の娘だぜ。まさか食事だけしてはいさよならってわけじゃないだろうな。
それが食事中に急患のコールが鳴って病院に呼び戻されちゃって。
なんだって？お前な、仕事第一主義もいい加減にしろよ。
カールのかい？
He'll be able to get
お
it
じい
up.
ちゃんがくれたんだ。でも
Hold on, hold on.
中心がずれてるのかな。
こうですか？
そうそう。さて、うまくいくかな。それ。やった。
Yeah. You see, it's not obstructed by the tree branches anymore. Clear ahead.
よ
But
ー
for
し。
how long?
やれやれ。
Guy's good at
俺
everything.
があの立場にいたら、
Ah.
愛人の5人は作ってるだろうよ。
Oh, that's the guy.
私じゃない。私は悪くない。この人がいきなり道に飛び出してきたんだ。
Yeah, he was on the run.
この男の証言次第で連続殺人事件が解決するかもしれません。
He's gonna see Dr.
こ
Tenma
んなに死な
again.
れては困るんです。
アイスラー記念病院に最高の脳外科医が一人いますが、彼が来てくれるようならもしかして。
Ah.
脳外科医
Yeah, he remembers.
ドクター・テンマです、
Oh, yeah.
お久しぶりです、ドクター・テンマ。
失礼ですが、どなたですか
9年ぶりですね。院長の葬式以
He
来です。
remembers you, Dr.
確
Tenma.
か連邦捜査局の。
Okay.
ルンゲ警部です。
Lung.
外科部長になられたそうですね。
Quite the climb,
ドクター
right?
テンマ、
Lung?
ずいぶん出世なさったようだ。
それが何か。
いえ、その若さで大したものだ。次期院長も間近なんでは。
いえ、私なんかまだまだです。
唯一の手がかりは毒入りキャンディー。この手口からわかるのは知的犯罪だというこ
Yeah.
知的犯罪というのは被害者と加害者の間に何らかの利害関係があるもの。
Dr. Tenma is going to understand.
何が言いたいんですか？
職業柄年中こんなことを考え
This
て
guy's
し
been
まいま
thinking
してね。
a
とにか
lot.
くご安心ください。私の関わった事件で解決しなかったものはないんですよ。ただの一件。
期待していますよ。
I'm sure he'll crack it, but he actually believes it's Tenma, right? Or he has good reason to believe.
アイスラー記念病院殺人事
Yeah,
件
I
の
know.
それによって多くの利益
Yeah.
どう考えてもただ一人。ドクターテンマ、あなただけなんだ。
警察の人が面会したがるでしょうが、今は断ってください。
しかし、ルンゲという刑事がしつこくて。
He certainly has quite the
今は
presence,
患
doesn't
者
he?
の回復が第一です。
Lung.
はい。なんです、ユンケルスさん。来る？何が来るんですか？
モンスターが
Oh, chills.
モンスター？
The monster, eh? Now, who could that be? Okay, so yeah, I've got to say, I find myself really quite dialed in already, really quite invested. Yeah, it's gripping. It really gets quite gripping, and I feel like it's already got its claws in me. Now, this is certainly quite the pace these first few episodes are setting. Do I expect it to continue in this manner the whole time? No, of course not. It's quite a long anime, quite a long story for that reason. So I'm guessing at some point it is going to kind of level out, right? Kind of find its rhythm, right? It's understandable and expected, right, to have a strong opening, a strong hook. But yeah, the immediate aftermath, yeah. I actually do get a lot of answers. I mean, it moves at quite the pace. I'm already seeing this potential time skip that I believed I might see at some point, but my goodness, already episode 3, right? 9-year time skip. That was a little bit jarring, even though I was expecting it at some point because, the setup is all there for a potential time skip. But yeah, this soon, and that in itself also gives you an idea, right? In terms of the pacing and the tone of it and the focus of it specifically as well, that they do feel the need to have the time skip happen this early on. Now, I believe there's a few reasons for the time skip, right? As I mentioned in my last discussion, but I do strongly feel that one of those reasons is to age up the twins, the missing twins, right? And that in itself is just kind of crazy, isn't it? Because you have Anna, who was just traumatized. She was in no shape to be out of there, right? She needed a lot of attention, a lot of time and care, a lot of psychological help, right? Yet, in that state, she's gone, and so is her brother Johan. Now, it remains to be seen if Johan just kind of took her and fled. Is he even in any shape to be able to pull that off? Perhaps one of the possibilities of the political assassination aspect of this, maybe that's at play, right? Maybe that is the reason those 3 men did end up dying, because ultimately the wrong person or the wrong people ended up taking from that bag of candy, the forbidden fruit, perhaps. And perhaps it was actually meant for Johan, right? Again, that possibility of them maybe kind of going back to finishing the job. But that's just one possibility, right there. That's just one possibility. But yeah, it's just crazy. I keep thinking about Anna being out there in that state. I mean, she's truly out there now because it's a 9-year time skip. So one of the more exciting parts of this anime at this point, or of this story at this point, is catching up with Anna and Johan. I'm sure once they come back into the picture, it's going to be something quite fascinating to see them again. Hell, it appears, or it feels like maybe I'm already hearing about at least one of them, right? That's certainly on the table. It is. But beyond the time skip, the crucial time skip, I suppose, there's a lot of really good stuff in this episode, right? A few new characters, one of them really quite prominent, a character that is going to be around for a substantial portion of this story, perhaps, given his job title, given the task at hand, Lunge. Now I'm just kind of repeating it the way I heard it. That's not really the spelling, but that's how they said it, so I'm saying it like that. Lunge, or Long, maybe. Yeah, fascinating new character. Yeah, almost as if it's a mirror to Tenma's prodigy, genius reputation as a surgeon. You've got this man on the other end, who is perhaps just as impressive in his line of work. Right, really quite impressive. He's not your average investigator. This is clearly someone quite special, someone really quite unique. Of course, he appears to be the type of person who does not miss a detail. Right, his approach is really quite comprehensive. And of course, he's got these tics or these really unique characteristics about him. The hand that ends up being him kind of mimicking the motion of typing, right? Perhaps a mnemonic device for him to memorize a plethora of information, right? The type of information that comes at someone in that line of work. And he appears to be really quite fantastic at it, really quite gifted at it. Perhaps, a memory low-key component as well. So, of course, that's going to be really quite handy for an investigator, right? So, you know, I really like him. It really does feel like he is able to go into some really dark places even in terms of headspace. You know, it kind of goes back to that comment I made about, you know, to I don't know, to understand the monster or to catch the monster, you must become like the monster. You must think like the monster. It almost immediately kind of, you know, goes from that point and it applies to this man. This is the type of man that I can picture kind of, you know, really executing that. You know, he's been around for some time and, you know, he reminds, or he at least tells Dr. Tenma about his immaculate record, right? That he solved every single case that he's ever taken on or he's ever been on, right? So of course, in that 9-year time skip, Tenma, you know, didn't really remember him. I mean, of course, he remembers at one point after Lunge kind of reminds him, but you know, Lunge, no, he did not forget anything, right? He kind of starts speaking of that murder or those murders from all that time ago as if it happened yesterday, right? Just really dialed in the specifics. You know, this is not something he just kind of forgot about. He's been thinking about this case for 9 years, surely, right? This is the type of man that is not going to all of a sudden kind of give up on a case. You know, you better believe he wants to crack it, and he's been at it for sure. And of course, you know, as expected, yeah, you know, the immediate suspect, the immediate glaring suspect in all of this appears to be Dr. Tenma, right? Of course, us, the audience, knows that's not the case at all, but from his perspective, from, again, the outside looking in perspective, even Dr. Tenma himself kind of, you know, feels, oh, yeah, I guess, you know, a lot of these things do kind of line up, you know. Unfortunately, yeah, you know, there is a small case to be made that I could be the prime suspect, right? But the thing I really like here is that it didn't do that thing of, okay, let's just take him, let's arrest him, because, you know, this is the prime suspect. Everything just lines up. Hell, I was even kind of surprised by Ava's reactions, and that actually is a good thing, because it's a little bit more realistic than I expected it to be, or she reacted in a manner that is a little bit more realistic. Though, of course, there could be a bit of, okay, my father's gone now. Yes, she's really quite upset. I don't think she's faking that element of it or that aspect of it. But there's also that aspect of, okay, my father's gone. This is the only other person I really know. And she knows he is quite talented as well. And of course, they meet up at the coffee shop upon her request, and she hears about his promotion, and she tried to get back in, right? I had no sympathy for her, beyond maybe the funeral, just a moment of sympathy, because like I mentioned in my discussion for the past episode, it's someone losing a parent, a family member. So from that perspective, yes, you can empathize. I can empathize. But beyond that, no, this is a terrible person. But the character design, like I mentioned, she looks so soft. Everything about her features, it just presented this soft presence, right? In comparison to the really jarring and almost demonic looking features, her eyebrows pointing up, her eyes, her mouth, the lines on her face, everything. It was just presented in a manner that is really quite off-putting and in line with her personality. But here you see, a different looking Ava. So I like that. They can do that shift, right? They can kind of play with that element. Listen, is it possible that her father's death shook her up to the point that she felt that she needs to change a lot of things about herself, and she begins that by going to Tenma to kind of mend those fences? I don't know, maybe there's a tiny bit of a chance for that. Really slim to none, really. I think she was just kind of putting on an act, trying to get Tenma back, trying to latch on once again now that her father is gone, and that lifestyle is going to be really quite difficult. But yeah, I liked how Tenma handles that situation. Doesn't need to say anything, because the silence in that moment, the look on his face in that moment, I think it kind of says it all, right? It's really quite telling. Silence can be golden sometimes. And yeah, she got the message. But also another surprising thing about this is that, yeah, maybe, based on the really almost cartoony over the top depiction of Ava, I just kind of felt that, she'll immediately think of Tenma and kind of pin it on him, or go to the cops and be like, oh yeah, it's gotta be him. You gotta take him in for questioning. Though, it's not that she had to do it, the cops themselves. And then of course, Lunge, they certainly have their eyes set on Tenma, right? Even though it's been made clear that there is an alibi, but still, it needs to be cracked. And like I said, I do believe Lunge is going to crack it at some point, right? But he'll inch towards the true killer or the true assailant behind these murders, right? Again, confirmed to be because of the candy, because the candy was tainted, poisoned. A muscle relaxant, something that Tenma really recognizes almost immediately, because clearly it's something he's used before, right, as a surgeon. So yeah, it doesn't help that even that also kind of checks out, right? Oh, this is something he does have access to, right? So a few things that are confirmed. It was the candy, right? Because to be honest, that part was really quite clear, because the 3 that died are the 3 that took the candy. So it was laced. They took that candy. Now they're out. As you'll remember, one of the possibilities that I brought up is that it might have been Johan. And of course, my detailed reasoning for that is in that discussion, so I'm not going to repeat it. But see, this confirmation actually makes it a bit more unlikely, or even more unlikely than before, that he somehow poisoned the candy. Because say if he actually did it, if he somehow managed to poison that candy, now that substance is something that you can find in there in the hospital, right? But how? How could he possibly pull that off? I'm just not seeing it how he could pull it off. Listen, there is a possibility that maybe Anna could have helped him, because she is known to get out of bed and then kind of go through the halls mindlessly, right? Traumatized. But I almost immediately kind of crossed that off because she's in no state to be assisting in something like that unless she's putting on a show. I don't know. It just doesn't feel like she's been faking this, right? She's been legitimately traumatized, and for that reason, I felt so concerned that she's out there. So yeah, it'll be interesting. Like I said, it'll be interesting to see them again. And yeah, like I said, I do feel like that's one of the main reasons for the time skip, because I'll see them as young adults the next time I do see them. And I'll get to see the impact that it's had on them. Is it possible that in those years, in the span of that time skip, they did get the help that they need, especially Anna. She certainly needed a lot of help. Johan, on the other hand, interesting young fellow, especially in the presentation, in those scenes in episode 2. Some of those scenes are really quite, perplexing, jarring, haunting even, right? The big reveal of his eyes opening up and that score accompanying that moment right after Dr. Tenma really lets it out that they're better off dead, right? And he's talking about how he's lost everything because of him and these people. Yeah, listen, do I think he ever actually meant all of that? Do I think he's happy about the director dying? No. He's not that type of person. Hell, he's such a nice person. He's such a good person that even Ava, she didn't even think of accusing him or pinning it on him, right? But again, maybe a part of that is because she needs him again. But no, I think even she was able to see how good of a person he is, that she couldn't imagine him doing something like this. Yeah. So I don't know, man. Even though it seems so unlikely that Johan could pull that off, right? Given all the obstacles as well. Like I was saying, how exactly could he pull that off? How could he expect the director to grab that bag specifically and then rip it open, right? Sealed bag. That's another thing. Though, of course, there's a ribbon on it. So yeah, as of this point, it's really a bit of a dead end, or really, really a tough sell in terms of Johan pulling that off. But, that doesn't mean I'm off of that trail. I do think there is something going on here. I do think this Junker, was it at the end? The guy who was on the run, the guy who speaks of this monster. The monster is coming. He's seen this monster. Hell, it appears that he might have collaborated with this monster because, Lunge believes that it's a two-man job perhaps, right? Junker breaking in because he's known for breaking and entering. He's been known to be in this area. So, maybe he helped this monster, kind of get into these places. And it appears that he actually might have been running from this monster, right? Maybe this monster is looking to tie up some loose ends. And of course, he gets hit by the car and ends up there. Is he safe there? Is he safe there? Is he out of the path of the monster, right? I mean, he doesn't... That ending there is really quite jarring, isn't it? It doesn't feel like he feels safe in there. The monster is coming. Listen, I still believe that, there is a possibility of the approach of the monster you created, right? In the sense that maybe Johan does end up becoming this individual. And of course, he keeps saying monster. The monster is coming. So, I think it kind of eliminates any notion of these twins kind of being a team of killers or serial killers even, because Lunge, as he pointed out, the MO kind of checks out. I believe they said it happened 4 times over the span of 2 years. Exact same type of murder. And every single time, these middle-aged couples, did not fight back, right? And had their throats slashed. So yeah, the MO is there. Listen, if Johan actually managed to take out the three people that Dr. Tenma is really kind of having a go at, especially the director, again, in a moment of immense stress, under a moment of immense stress, kind of just, letting it all out. And, Johan took it all in as kind of depicted in the next scene. I still believe that's one of the possibilities, that indeed Johan is capable of doing something like this, and indeed he is one of my prime suspects for being this monster figure that Junker is really quite terrified of at the end, right? It's a 9-year time skip. A lot can happen in that time. A lot can happen. I kind of assumed everything that is edible in there might be laced or might be poison, right? Surely they must have checked it all, and they didn't mention anything, right? Lunge didn't really mention anything. So it appears it's just that bag, that specific bag. But the thing is, the compound that they found in there, it is something that you can find in the hospital. So, that keeps it interesting, doesn't it? But, there's just too much that they gave us in the last episode to ignore that, it truly could be Johan as well. That is certainly one of the possibilities, one of the strong possibilities, I think. Again, for my thoughts on all of that, feel free to check out my discussion for episode 2. But one thing is for sure, these twins are going to be quite the crucial component of the story, right? They are important. Hell, Lunge actually even said that they are the key to all of this. And, he brought up the whole situation of political assassins. But you could just tell right then and there that he's not leaning towards that possibility. He's leaning more towards the serial killer possibility. And this is a man who's been on the job for a long time. This man's seen a few things, but the actual 9-year time skip, the moment it happens on screen, you could tell almost immediately that it's been good for Tenma. All these years, he's healed quite a bit, and he's really quite content at the moment, right? His headspace is really quite distinct at this moment. Hell, even the presentation of the hospital itself, it's presented as this hopeful place, a place of healing, right? Rather than the early depiction of this hospital in the first episode, and even in the second episode a few times, just dark and moody. That it's not really this hopeful place. It's almost presented as this place of despair, and I actually even called it hell at one point. That it kind of reminds you that you're entering hell, and that there might be monsters here. Even the angles they used to showcase the hospital in the first 2 episodes, low angles, this ominous presence, this structure, this building. But now it feels like a normal hospital, right? You see that it's not using that angle anymore. It just doesn't give off that energy anymore of this ominous place, or exuding this ominous energy in those first 2 episodes, but not anymore, right? And when you see the tree branches full of life, green, in comparison to a lot of the almost lifeless tree branches that I see in the framing and the composition of a lot of these shots, right? You see a lot of times it's obstructing characters. It's obstructing certain things, right? You'll see the branches kind of sneaking into frame, almost like bony fingers latching onto these people or to Tenma, right? And I think, from a visual storytelling perspective, it's really quite effective, right? There's that one moment as he's looking up at the sky and, he's telling, God damn, I forgot his name. I'll have to go look that up again. But yeah, he's telling him about his plans, that maybe it's the right time for him to go back to Japan. And, even as he's talking about that, you'll see the branches are obstructing him, right? But then as he's looking up, you see the free plane up in the sky, clear of all of this mess, right? Much like how the kite is used later after the time skip to depict his new mindset. But of course, us audience knows all good things come to an end, right? Him being in this position, being really quite happy, in life at that moment. And I'm speaking of the, post time skip Tenma. Yeah, that ending, the monster is coming. That really kind of sets everything up, doesn't it? But, in terms of change being on the horizon, perhaps, one of the reasons I was really drawn or attracted to this anime is the fact that apparently it does have a character-driven focus, right? And again, that the length of the anime and the episode count really, really kind of is quite exciting because, it's, for sure that it's not going to be rushing things, right? I'd rather have a much longer series instead of trying to, fit everything into a small one. Trying to fit everything into an episode that really should have been maybe multiple episodes. Death Note kind of suffers from this, but I feel like this anime is not going to have that problem. Though, that being said, I've heard about the pacing, that maybe it's not everyone's cup of tea, that maybe it drags on. I've heard some of these things. I feel like I'm not really going to have that issue. But kind of going back to my point about the character focus, a thing I'm really excited about is, any potential character metamorphosis for Dr. Tenma. But yeah, that notion of going back to Japan didn't play out. He stuck around again, 9-year time skip. He stuck around because he saw that people need him. He's needed here. He felt that it is his responsibility to be here for these people. There's, like I said in the last episode's discussion, there's a lot of people here, a lot of the staff that has great respect for this man. They know the type of person he is. He's a good person. He is someone to look up to, even, right? For sure, right? There's even that segment. You've got students looking in on that surgery, right? They're looking at a master at his craft. So yeah, he ends up staying. There's a beautiful scene of him and that older gentleman who felt that, he owes a lot to Dr. Tenma and his approach and just the type of doctor he is. But yeah, kind of shifting the focus back to Lunge. This Sherlock Holmes type figure, right? Eccentric, really quite eccentric. I really, that tick I mentioned earlier, him inputting this information into the disc in his mind and his head. It's a great narrative tool as well, visual indicator of the things he is finding interesting in any given moment. Anytime any piece of information is presented to him, they kind of cut to it, or not every single time, but sometimes they'll cut to it, right? So you can kind of almost get an idea of how he's perceiving these things or this new information that's coming at him, right? You can just kind of infer or gather that, okay, he finds that really quite interesting. This piece of information, he finds it really quite interesting. But yeah, I think that should do it for this one, folks. I'm actually quite excited because I'm recording the next episode right after this. Doing a lot of that these days, double recordings back to back. But yeah, another thing they mentioned is that, the couples, the middle-aged couples, they didn't have any children, right? That seems to be another detail that this serial killer is kind of looking at, right? They didn't have any children. Again, they're a couple like Anna and Johan's own parents as well. And apparently neighbors didn't hear any noise. And also I noticed that some of the animation looked really quite different, in some moments at least. There's that moment as Tenma runs up at the hospital, right? There, the animation really had a distinct look to it. Really different from the other animation I've seen. But then it kind of goes back to the usual look as well. But a few moments here and there. At one point, there's that great shot of the car pulling up as well. And also, lastly, one more thing on Lunge. The character design, of course, really quite striking. Like I mentioned, I've noticed that the eyebrows, the smile or the mouth itself, the lines on the face, really quite distinct. And even the voice acting itself, I really liked it. At one moment, I was trying to think if it is familiar, because it felt like it was familiar. I don't know. Maybe I'll look it up. And see if it adds up. But yeah, I thought it was a great episode. It really was, and I'm really quite excited to move on to the next. So if you enjoyed that, consider dropping a like, consider dropping some comments, give me your thoughts. If you're interested in early access to the next few episodes right now, or perhaps even full length, timer-based full length, of course, consider checking out the Patreon page and supporting the channel. Links in the description and the pinned comment. Also links to social media, if that's your thing. And I do hope to see you again soon for episode 4. Till then, take it easy.